Hey, friends. I have some big news to share. And if you're heading to the American Library Association's annual conference in Philadelphia this year, you're going to want to mark your calendars. I'm beyond thrilled and honored to be moderating a powerhouse panel presented by Macmillan Children's Publishing Group called Middle Grade Luminaries. And trust me, this is the moment for middle grade. When is it? Sunday, June 29th, from 10:30 to 11:20 a.m. The location, it's going to be a real page-turner stage. That's where it's going to be located, booth 2435. This is your chance to hear from literary giants and rising stars who are reshaping the world of middle grade storytelling. Who's on the panel? Get this. Catherine Applegate, Newbery medalist and the author of the new book, Pocket Bear. Rebecca Stead, Newbery medalist and author of the new book, The Experiment. Craig Kofi Farmer, author of the new book, A Method for Magic and Misfortune, and this year's Coretta Scott King John Steptoe Award winner. And H.E. Edgman, author of Defanged and a 2025 Stonewall honoree. Whether your readers love realism, bold fantasy, or mind-blowing, mind-bending sci-fi, this panel delivers stories that help kids feel seen and, you know what, stretch their sense of what's possible. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, if you're going to ALA, stop by, please say hello, and also grab a front seat and get inspired. This is more than a panel. It's a celebration of what middle grade can do. Now, let's start the show.
Hello, readers, and welcome back to Reading in the Middle, where we celebrate unforgettable stories and the brilliant creators who bring them to life. I am your host, Anisha Jeffries, Youth Services Manager at the Cleveland Public Library. Today's guest is someone I've admired for a long time, an artist, writer, and all-around storytelling powerhouse. I'm thrilled to welcome Liz Montague to the podcast. Liz is the creator of Maybe an Artist, stunning graphic memoir that was nominated for an NAACP Image Award, received 3-star reviews, and was named a Best Book of the Year by both the Washington Post and the Bulletin. Her work lives at the intersection of self and social awareness, and she's been amplifying that message across art, words, and activism. In 2019, Liz became one of the first Black female cartoonists to contribute to The New Yorker. Since then, she's illustrated for the U.S. Open, Food Network, Google, and even the Joe Biden presidential campaign. She's also the creator of the popular Liz at Large cartoon series and has been profiled by ABC News, The Washington Post, Today, and more. And now she's back with a new middle grade graphic novel that is full of, you guessed it, heart and hilarity. Camp Frienemies, a summer camp story about friendship, friction, and the funny, messy road to figuring things out. We talk about everything from creative identity to bunk, drama, visual storytelling, and why being a little bit of everything is exactly where the magic happens. So, grab your marshmallows. Let's get into it. Liz, it's such a joy to have you on Reading in the Middle. Your new graphic...
Honored to be here.
Pleasure having you here. Your new graphic novel, Camp Frienemies, is a charming, hilarious, and full of big emotions. Now, before we get into the story, I'd like to know, do you remember your first week away from home as a kid, and what kind of camper were you?
I went to Camp Indowindoin, which is in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. I don't know if you're familiar with the New Jersey Pine Barrens. It is like another world. You're in a new dimension outside of time and space. That's where the Pine Barrens exists. That's where like the Jersey Devil is supposed to live, like the myth of New Jersey. Anyway, we were out in the cut, man. It it was far away. But anyway, it's a Girl Scout camp. So I went with my fellow Girl Scouts and we were out there learning wilderness skills. I learned how to like sew, but like not like sew and like sew pants. It was like how to sew like survival gear. Like I felt like I was prepared for something, okay? But I had so much fun. What kind of camper was I? I feel like I wasn't like an anxious camper. I was more of just like so what are we doing here? Like, what's this really about? Like, okay, like I'm supposed to use all the cutesy names, and okay, we're watching the birds fly around, but okay, what am I really doing here? I think I was like a questioning camper. It probably comes through in the book.
But that's always good to be inquisitive. I mean, why are you here? I'm going to be sleeping in
Right?
the woods. What's going on?
Like, can someone give me a real reason why we're doing this? Why am I like outside, in the middle of the day? It's 1,000 degrees. Okay. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I need AC.
No one could ever tell me why.
That's crazy. They could have just said, hey, you'll enjoy it. Trust us. And that's what we had to do.
We always do that to kids though. We'll just tell kids like, oh, just trust it. Just trust it.
Now, Liz, can you tell our listeners about Camp Frenemies?
Sure. Camp Frienemies is about 3 campers. They're rising 7th graders, so they just finished 6th grade, and they are at sleepaway camp. The main character, Beatrice, that's who's kind of head we're in for most of the book. She is really reluctant about going to camp. She's not so sure about it. She's like, I don't know. All my stuff's at home. Like, why would I leave home? And like, I get that. I really, really get that. And her stuffed animal, Roger, well, she's a whole trio of stuffed animals that come with her, but Roger's the main one. She's deeply, deeply attached to Roger. But now, all of a sudden, sometime between elementary school and middle school, like it became not cool to have your stuffed animal around. Like before everybody had one, and now suddenly she's the only one. And now she's at camp and she has these 2 bunkmates who already know each other because they played soccer together. And like they're all 3 of them are supposed to try to figure this thing out for the week. And the Camp Frienemies really just chronicles that first week of camp. And we get to be inside Beatrice's head, which is really also Roger's head because her stuffed animal and her, they're attached. And I was very similar to her. I had a stuffed animal that I thought I shared a consciousness with. We were one. And I really pulled from that with Beatrice. And we get to follow them during their first week of camp, during a really transitional and transformational time.
Yeah, this is a great summer book. You mentioned Beatrice, Roxy, and Virginia, and they're 3 very different girls with their own baggage, literally and emotionally, right? And heading into the
Yes.
first week of sleepaway camp. And sleepaway camp, for me, I'm like a big horror fan. So it reminds me of that horror movie, Sleepaway Camp. I don't know if you've seen it,
Yeah.
but anyway,
I've heard of that.
well, maybe it's different. Let me just say that it's not Camp Friendly, that's for sure. But what drew you to this particular moment in a kid's life and that awkward transition from like elementary school to middle school where friends shift and identities wobble?
I feel like I love those like sticky in between bits where it's just like you're on the verge of something else, but you're not quite there yet. Because I feel like there's a lot to dig into. There's a lot of big feelings to dig into, and I love a big feeling where it's just like you're leaving something behind, but you're not quite in this other space yet, and everything around you is changing, and really kind of like slowing down that thought process enough for like the viewer or the reader to get to like experience it alongside with them, and then start asking your own questions as far as like when I carried the stuffed animal around every single day. When was the day that I stopped? And like, did I ever really realize that like I just stopped? And like I think that I just find those spaces really intriguing. And also I think that like that tween girlhood moment is really like not always talked about. You kind of talk about like the destinations of like being a teenager or being like a younger kid, but those like tween moments, like the really nitty gritty of it, of like, oh, I'm on the club soccer team, but I didn't make my middle school soccer team. Now what? Like I feel like we don't really always get into those really like itty bitty nitty bits,
Dude, I understand that. And you're right, it's not talked about at all. And
Yeah.
it's such an emotional journey to go through. But it goes by so quickly. And one of the
Yeah.
things that I love about this book is how real each of the girls feels. Beatrice B, she's quiet and anxious, and Roxy just wants space to breathe, and Virginia is trying to figure out who she is without her soccer girl identity. How did you shape these characters, and did any of them come to you first, or did they evolve together?
I feel like there's like little bits of me in each of the characters. Beatrice was first for me, where I was like, I knew that Beatrice was going to be like who the reader was going to be like kind of brought into the story with. I knew that she was going to be one of the main girls. And then as I was thinking of the other girls in who were going to be in her cabin with her, Roxy and Virginia kind of just emerged. Well, Roxy came from when I was a kid, they were like the Roxy surf girls. Do you know this era of like there were these girls who were like all surfers and they were all signed to Roxy, like the sport brand, and they like didn't go to school and they just like surfed and like traveled the world, and they were so cool. I always associated Roxy with just being like, wow, like those Roxy girls are just so cool. And so Roxy kind of came from that. And then with Virginia, I went to school in Richmond, Virginia. When I went to school on a track and field scholarship, I was an athlete my whole life. Before I really kind of went all in on track, I used to play basketball. I did AAU like travel basketball for like 10 years. But when I was in middle school, I was on the club team and I didn't make the middle school team. And then I was like, I'm done forever. I'm never playing again. Goodbye, basketball. So my sports experience is really kind of channeled into Virginia. And like I think I named her Virginia because I went to school in Richmond. So yeah.
It's really nice to add that in there. And, you're right. With sports, it's like, man, I was bad at all of them, to be honest. Kickball was the only sport that I was good in. But you feel like that, just you're tied to something, a sport, and with
Yeah.
it's not her identity anymore. And so there's this tension between Beatrice and Virginia that's so well done. Icy glances,
Thanks.
bunk moment, total frenemy energy. What did you want to explore about conflict between girls that isn't always obvious or loud, but still really affects them?
I didn't want anybody to be the villain. I wanted to be like for each girl, like, they were both like, I'm totally justified. Like, and because that's real. That's so real. It's just like, and then I wanted to just be like, they each had their own things going on, and the things that they had going on just did not mesh well together at the time. It's not like she's a bad person or she's terrible evil. It's just like, I'm going through something, you're going through something, and the way that we're going through it doesn't go well together right now. Because I feel like that's like very much how my experiences were as a kid, even now as an adult, where it's just like, oh, like I didn't text you back, but I'm just like, on a deadline and busy. I don't mean anything by it. And I feel like that miscommunication happens so much in friendships, but especially in female friendships. And then like it can get exacerbated into a bigger thing or a smaller thing or whatever. But I really wanted to just like go dive into it in this book.
Man, oh man, yes, you are absolutely correct with that. I mean, and it doesn't stop with middle grade. It continues when you're an adult.
Yeah.
So yes, I totally agree with that. But also the wonderful thing about Camp Frienemies listeners, Liz, your background is in visual storytelling, cartoons, illustration, and your graphic memoir, maybe an artist. I know I said
Yeah.
I was visiting a high school library. I was doing some promotion for our summer reading challenge. And I looked over and I saw your book. And this is when you had said yes to be on the
Yeah.
podcast. I said, this is a great sign. I sent you that photo just to let you know that like your books and particularly that book was on display. I didn't do that. It was there
Yeah.
on display. So, how does your artist's eye shape the way you write dialogue or build a scene, especially in a graphic novel?
I feel like it allows me to consider like the visual literacy of the entire composition. Sometimes there is just an eyebrow raised and there's no text, but there is a lot communicated. Like there's so much that can be communicated, not just through text. I want the text and the visuals to always work together. I don't want the visuals to overpower the text or the text to overpower the visuals. Because I mean, I'm also dyslexic. So if I'm presented with a really, really busy page or a page where I can't necessarily tell where my eye should flow, I kind of will just like maybe shut down or maybe be like, maybe this isn't for me, or like I don't have the capacity to necessarily get through the story. And so it's something that I'm really, really conscious of when coming up with compositions. And I think that because of my background in visual arts and also in graphic design, which is what I started my career as a graphic designer, I think a lot about how it all flows together, not just like as individual components. because it's hard to get things together. And I mean, even when you sent me the maybe an artist, I was just like so flattered because like that was my first ever graphic novel. And after I did that graphic novel, I was like, I'll never do a graphic novel again. These are too hard. I'm not cut out for it. I cannot do this. And now I'm on my second graphic novel, and it's 100 pages longer than maybe an artist. So never say never.
I was about to say that. Yep, never say never, you know? Yeah, we go through these
Never say
challenges,
never.
but it's worth it. You know, after you do it, you say,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it, but then here we are. You know, you're doing it and it's great, right? And with a Camp Frenemies, the camp setting gives you so many moments to play with. Canoe rides, campfires, cabin drama. Were there any scenes you had a blast drawing or writing that made you laugh out loud?
Getting to do like Beatrice's revenge with her bracelets, like I don't want to reveal too much, but that whole scene was just so much fun for me of just like her being in the craft hut and trying to like concoct some like how am I gonna get Virginia back was so fun to me. And like it's always is at some kind of camp, even if it's not an art camp, there's always some kind of the craft hut, the art zone. Like it's always some like little random like room where it's just like no rules, just art supplies, go figure something out. And so I'm really glad that I got to make it a crucial part of the story, or a big moment in the story. That was really fun to me. The whole thing was really fun though. And yeah, that was like, I hope that shows is that like I had a lot of fun making this book.
Can tell. I can tell.
Yeah.
I'm laughing out loud. Absolutely. You know, there's also a delicate emotional arc in this book. You know, readers
Yeah.
see these characters stretch and grow, which I love. You know, but sometimes painfully, right? What
Yeah.
things were most important to you as you develop the story? And you know, what do you want kids to feel when they've turned the last page?
I want them to feel like, hmm. I want them to feel like they maybe can see these characters in their real life. Like maybe there was somebody who like, oh, maybe I was a little short with her. Like I didn't really give her a chance. And maybe like maybe we could try. Maybe we could try to be closer, try to be friends, or just try to be civil. Like I want them to maybe see like the bits and pieces that around them, you know? Because I once went to a talk in college with Moshe Hamid, who did Exit West, and he said fiction isn't about what you write, but what it allows the reader to do. And I think about that a lot as far as just like getting to show these kind of emotional journeys because I think that emotional literacy is such a valued thing for any child, but especially any adults, and a lot of adults don't have it. Like, I'm really grateful when I can just like hopefully show that stretching and that like, I didn't give this person a chance and now through a series of events, there's someone who I would consider a friend or at least like not an enemy, maybe a friend of me.
Love the
Full
title.
circle.
Yeah, full circle, right? And I love the title, Camp Frenemies. I mean,
Yes.
that caught me right there, you know. And so, Liz, your last book, Maybe an Artist, which you mentioned, was deeply personal memoir about identity, creativity, and finding your voice. How did writing Camp Frenemies challenge or free you in new ways?
I think it freed me because like it wasn't about me, which is really nice. I mean, there are no limits. I mean, but that's also scary because like there are no limits.
Hmm.
But I think that like I could explore different things as far as experiences that I've had, experiences that friends have had, and find a way to like package them where they all kind of went together. And then also it's like satisfying where it's like, oh, like this gets an ending. Like in real life, obviously you don't get like tiny bows on anything to feel like, oh, like this is a complete journey. But I got to give like these characters complete journeys for this book at least. And I feel like that's a nice like mental exercise for me.
It is. You know, when you're talking about art and you know, discussing art, so much is communicated in your book, visually in this book. Tiny glances, as I mentioned before, icy stares, posture, and silence. How did you decide what needs to be said in words and what's better left for the art to do?
That's a great question. I feel like my impulse is always if I can draw it, I'd rather draw it than write it. I try to think of it exactly like how it would be two people in a room where it's like I wouldn't necessarily turn to someone and be like, I'm so mad at you and so annoyed. Maybe it is like my shoulders are hunched, my arms are crossed, I'm staring in the opposite direction. Like if there's a way for me to visually communicate it, I think that's always my preference. Because I think that I'm also somewhat of like a design minimalist, an art minimalist, as far as like I don't want to I want to use as little text as possible. I want to use as little line as possible. Like I want everything to be very clean and smooth just because I know that for me, when I was a kid as a reader, I just got so overwhelmed so easily. And so if I can make the reader's journey easier, that's always my goal. Like as far as like the hierarchy of needs, readability and the ease for the reader is always like number one. And I have to put that above my own ego as far as, oh, well, I want to show that I can know all these big words and I know, how to do all this really complicated art. But like at the end of the day, if it's not serving that goal of the reader having like the easiest time, then it's not important.
It's not. You're right. You're absolutely right. Now your book, the Camp Frienemies, just came out, correct? It just
Yeah.
came out. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, have you done any school visits yet? Have you had any response from young readers so far? I know it just came out, but I imagine some kids will see themselves in these characters and
Mhm.
it'll make them in ways feel personal and it will touch them. Excuse me. Did you get any response yet? Because I know there are teachers out there maybe who received like marks. Have you received any feedback yet?
I mean, literally
I know it just
just before this, literally at 10 a.m., I had an event today at Inkwood Books, with a local bookstore here in South Jersey. And it was like the first time where like before the bookstore opened, like there was like a line outside of like kids waiting. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, and like we had a full house and it was so much fun. We made crafts. One of the girls made me a little bracelet. It was so much fun. And then like so many of the girls like were on soccer teams and like we kind of talked about that. And we talked about so many of the girls were also going to camp and they got books for their friends who were also going to camp. And like it was really, really cool. Also, I got in a bunch of author copies and I was able to send a whole box to Troop 6000 in New York, which is the Girl Scout troop that uses girls from the homeless shelters. I was able to send a whole box to them. So really trying to just like get it in the hands of readers as much as possible. Yeah, I mean, I just had a school visit on Thursday, but for a different book in Harlem. That went great. So I know that there are more school visits for this in the fall for Camp Frienemies because now it's like summer. Kids are like done. Yeah, it's been like just like today really blew my mind of just getting to actually like see kids and talk to them about the book and like see how much they resonated with the story and the characters and how much they related and like because it's you never know. Obviously, like I'm 29. I do not know what the sixth graders of today are really going through. I remember what I was going through, and I know what students tell me, but like it's you never know what's really going to resonate, and it's cool to see that it feels like this is something they can relate to.
yes. I'm not going to tell you how long ago it was when I was in sixth grade, but it was in the 80s. But I remember making friendship bracelets, all of the things that went on in camp when I was
Yeah.
young. I just remember doing that. Now we didn't have any of the technology, okay? We didn't have any of that, but when you're in camp, you're kind of roughing it, right? But that's what they say.
Yeah,
You're kind of
yeah,
roughing it. And I think that's what the adults don't want to tell us. Like we didn't have a TV, we didn't have television, that back in the day.
yeah.
But you're really it's a community. You have this little community for the summer, and you really depicted that so well in Camp Frienemies. And so, listeners, I just want you to know this book is so great. It's wonderful. I've really enjoyed it. So I just wanted to let you know that this is such a great book. I love it. I just love graphic novels. I'm glad you made it into a graphic novel too.
Yeah, thanks. Because it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but I'm glad that I went that route. I am ultimately glad I went
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Liz, guess what? It's time
what?
for our lightning round questions. Are you ready?
Wow. Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Now, don't think. Don't think. Just answer.
Okay. Don't
Okay?
think, just answer.
Yeah, just
Okay. Okay.
so.
Okay.
Favorite camp snack?
Cheez-Its.
Would you rather bunk with your BFF or your frenemy?
Frenemy.
Most essential survival tool, real or imaginary?
Toothbrush.
And what's a campfire song that lives rent free in your brain?
Oh, that SpongeBob one. That Sponge. Let's gather around the campfire and sing the campfire song. Do you know that? See, yeah, it's like from SpongeBob. That's in my head all the time.
Rent free. Now,
Rent free.
are you already thinking about a return to Camp Frienemies, Liz? Will there be a sequel?
I am. I am already thinking about a return to Camp Frienemies. I actually just turned in the cover like yesterday.
Right
So
on.
All right, now, what kind of hijinks would you throw in? A talent show, a rainy day mystery, more canoe drama? You can tell me.
there's definitely a lot of drama because now it's summer after seventh grade, and that's a big summer because like you only really get 2 summers in middle school that are like the real meaty summers. It's like sixth grade and then seventh grade because after eighth grade you're pretty much in high school. So there's all the seventh grade drama that you would expect and a lot that you wouldn't expect, but it all goes together pretty well, I think.
Can't wait. And so you'll be sending me the final copy. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Once I get it, yeah, once I finish it.
So you've created a career that's very fluid. You've been a cartoonist, a
Mhm.
writer, and an illustrator, a public voice. So what would you say to young people who also feel like they're a little bit of everything? How do you embrace that instead of feeling like you have to choose?
I once had a horoscope that says the universe rewards sincerity. And so I kind of just try to have that be like a compass as far as like I want to make stuff that I really mean, and that like I really believe in. And that can look like a lot of different things, but I think that as long as like the through line is that like I believe in all of it, then it all starts to like fit together. And I'd say to let that be like a guide as far as like what can you really like say with your whole chest? What can you really be like, no, like I really want to this is something that I'm proud of. I can make something that I'm proud of in this space and just follow it that way. Cause like it really won't guide you wrong. As long as you put like your real like time, attention, energy, and like it really shows, people will like believe in it too, because like your belief in it will almost shine through like its own little candle.
So that absolutely right, Liz. Now, where can our listeners find you? Maybe Instagram, your website. Where can they find you?
I'm at Liz at Large on Instagram, LizatLarge. Had to test myself there trying to spell that. My website is lizatlarge.org. So see me on the internet. I'm on Mac.
Well, and Liz, I just want to tell you, this is wonderful having you on Reading in the Middle. This was a great conversation. I want to thank you for joining me.
Of course.
Listeners, you need to go and get Camp Frienemies. It's out now. So you can go to your independent bookstore, go to your library. It will be there.
Yes.
You will have a wonderful time. I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Liz Montague, artist, storyteller, and camp expert, at least on paper. Her new book, Camp Frienemies, is out now, and it's the perfect read for kids and grown-ups navigating friendships, identity, and all the weird, wonderful stuff that happens when you're growing up. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow Reading in the Middle wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a review or share this episode with someone who loves middle grade books as much as we do. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and never underestimate the power of a good campfire story.